Good evening, this is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. 133 peacekeepers are home from Liberia, but not quite. Upon arrival at Villamor Air Base in Pasay City, the peacekeepers were whisked away by bus to Sangli Point in Cavite, where they will board a Navy boat that will take them to Naval Station Caballo. There they will be quarantined for 3 weeks. Let's speak first to George Cahiles, who is with the convoy of the buses that are on their way, bringing the peacekeepers to Sangli Point. George?
The convoy is now here in Cavite City, and in a few minutes we will reach Sangli Point. And we've been following this convoy for more than an hour now from Villamor Air Base. And of course, it's a long convoy, and of course the main vehicles would be the 3 buses carrying the 133 peacekeepers to Sangli Point. Each bus has a driver and at most crew members wearing hazmat. And earlier we noticed that the peacekeepers were even waving to our camera. They were smiling and they looked excited upon arriving here in the country after their 10-month stay in Liberia. Upon arrival in Sangli Point, the peacekeepers will immediately be transferred to the Navy's BRP Dagupan City. And Philippine Navy spokesman Colonel Edgar Arevalo says the ship's crew were well trained and oriented on the safety protocols transporting the peacekeepers on island. Navy says that the crew will keep distance from the peacekeepers during the around 3 to 4 hour travel from Sangli Point to Caballo Island. That's why the crew will no longer wear hazmats or any protective gear during the trip. The trip is dependent, of course, on the sea condition and the commanding officer of the ship. And the Philippine Navy says
peacekeepers aboard bus on the way to Sangli
will immediately be disinfected after she finishes her mission of transporting the 133 peacekeepers to Caballo Island. Pia?
Okay, I'm sorry, George, the buses have just arrived in Sangli Point. That's what we're seeing right now?
Okay, Pia, as far as I'm concerned, we are already in Cavite City, but we're at the end of the convoy.
At the tail end of the convoy.
Yeah, okay. We're at the tail of the convoy, but we cannot see if we are already near the Sangli Point area. But our reporter, Rex Emilio, is waiting there at the gate of Sangli Point. So, he's there if in case that this convoy already enters the Sangli Point area. Yes?
Okay, I suppose you're not going to be allowed beyond or inside the gates of Sangli Point. So I suppose right now you're going to be stopping. You're going to be stopped in a little while.
That's correct, because the armed forces is very strict in terms of allowing media men in entering their camp. So we have yet to get an information if we will be stopped at the gate of Sangli Point, but if they will permit us, of course, to come near the area, of course, we will follow. And, okay, so currently we are, we're a few meters away from Sangli Point right now. And based on our map,
George, this is nice. No, we're seeing we're showing you live shots right now. What we're seeing right now are live shots just outside the gate of Sangli Point, Sangli Naval Base in Cavite. The buses are passing. The peacekeepers on the bus waving to the crowds and to the cameras.
That's correct. We've seen the excitement on the faces of the peacekeepers earlier, and they're waving, they're smiling, and it looks like they're all excited to at least to see their families after 21 days. And we also saw some family members waiting for them at the Villamor Air Base. Okay, I guess we are near the gate of Sangli Point right now, Pia. So there. So we are seeing that the convoy is now entering the Sangli Point area. There's so many people waiting here outside the naval base, and there's so many policemen, so many people anticipating for this arrival of the peacekeepers here. We're also seeing some Navy officers, some military policemen now stopping us from entering the gate of the Stanley Point area. Okay, so we're being stopped right now, so we can no longer see what's happening in this area. Okay, but anyway, Pia, we will try to give you a little more details later on. So, meantime, back to you, Pia.
All right, thank you. George Kahila is reporting there. George was with the convoy from Villamor until this point in Sangley Point. We're going to speak now to Rex Remigio. He's standing by just outside Sangley Point's gate. Rex?
Yes, Pia, the convoy of quarantined Filipino peacekeepers from Liberia has just arrived here at the Sangley Point here in Cavite City, where the naval base of the Philippine Navy is located. The convoy of buses from Villamor Air Base arrived here at about 7 p.m. They were composed of many ambulance units as well as vehicles from the United Nations and even motorcycle units and patrol vehicles from the Philippine National Police Region 4. This is the jump-off point of the 133 peacekeepers before they are brought to Caballo Island, where they will be quarantined for 3 weeks. Security is really tight here that you can see that police forces from Philippine National Police Region 4 are lined up in the middle of the street where the convoy has passed just a while ago. Now cars are not camp, as even members of the media and relatives of the peacekeepers are not allowed as well. You can also see some Marines armed with M16 rifles are lined up and geared for the arrival. And Pia, as a safety precaution, we were advised not to get close to the convoy of the peacekeepers. They are expected to arrive here tonight. We also saw that some of the peacekeepers are smiling and waving hands to the audience here. Navy spoke Marinette Domingo, there will be no screening procedures for the peacekeepers. They will be immediately ferried to Caballo Island once they arrive here at Sangley Point. They will go straight to BRP Tagupan City LC 551 for a 4-hour trip to Caballo Island. Well, Pia, just to give you a background, Caballo Island is 40 nautical miles or roughly 74 kilometers away from Sangley Point. 74 kilometers is like traveling yung city, San Fernando in Pampanga. Once the peacekeepers arrive in the island, they will stay in igloo-like houses that were built during the American occupation era. These are made of cement, refurbished, and are air-conditioned 24/7. 30 soldiers will share a tent, while there will be separate tents for the remaining officers and female personnel. They will also be provided with internet and mobile connection, cable television, and karaoke machines. Pia, the Philippine Navy said the peacekeepers will be sent to Caballo Island not to isolate them from the society, but to make sure they are safe from the Ebola virus since they came from Liberia. But the Navy admits there is no certainty if the peacekeepers will only 21 days. Pia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Rex Remigio reporting from Sangley Point. The Philippine peacekeepers had just arrived there from Sangley Point as reported. They're going to be boarding a boat that will take them to Caballo Island, or what the Navy calls Naval Station Caballo, which will be home away from home for them in the next 3 weeks. What is on that island? We have this story.
They'll be home soon, but not quite. Because of the Ebola scare, authorities want to be sure that even if the 108 soldiers, 24 policemen, and a jail officer were medically cleared before they left Liberia, they'll be quarantined first for 3 weeks on Caballo Island. They're going to be sleeping in what the AFP calls are double-deck bunk beds in air-conditioned barracks, just like these igloo-type structures. 34 men to 1 barracks. Tents for officers, tents for female soldiers. It's not much, but soldiers are most likely used to, well, a soldier's life. There are supplies prepared for them: beddings, clothing, underwear even, toiletries, toothbrushes, toothpaste, cotton buds, deodorant. Generators will provide electricity. There's a widescreen TV and cable television. Authorities promise there'll be internet, Wi-Fi, cellular phones so that the peacekeepers can stay in touch with their families, the comforts of home as much as possible. A flurry of construction is still going on. Plywood and hollow blocks still waiting to be used. Remember, this video was taken on Monday. Today's Wednesday, the day the peacekeepers arrive. But then again, this last-minute frame of mind is a Filipino thing, and so is choosing the best-priced item. Behind the soldiers, you can see a row of toilets, the simplest kind, the kind you'd have to flush with a pail of water. The shower stalls aren't fancy either. It's not much, but it'll have to do. It is, after all, going to be home sweet home, or more correctly, quarantine sweet quarantine for the next 3 weeks. Because as soldiers and law enforcement officers, they don't have much of a choice. An order is an order.
Let's talk to Colonel Roberto Angcan. He's on the phone right now, joining us from Sangley Point in Cavite. I presume, sir, you are with the peacekeepers, right, sir?
Hello, Pia. Good evening po at good evening sa mga televiewers natin. No, I'm here at Villamor Air Base.
Villamor.
Waiting for the transport of their luggages going there to Sangley Point, I mean.
I see. Well, sir, we just showed that report about what has been prepared for them on the island. What exactly can they do on the island, sir?
Actually, we have series of activities for the 7-day duration. They have sports and entertainment, Wi-Fi, and other activities just like coastal cleanup and tree planting in the area of their quarantine location.
All right. And of course, they'll have Wi-Fi, sir. We're told cellular phones that they can use, cable television, so that they won't feel like they're left out or...
Yeah, actually they were already given cell phones and Wi-Fi, as well as the TV for the cable were already installed in the area. And I have also contact with senior officer who is with the party, the deputy contingent commander. He has already the cell phone and have in contact with them. Right now, actually, before I got the call, they already inside the Sangley Point.
Mm-hmm. Who is the deputy contingent commander, sir? Can you give us his rank and name?
He's Lieutenant Colonel Villacruzes.
Villacruzes.
Yeah.
What's his first name, sir?
I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll get back to you and call. I just only call him Vil.
I see. Well, sir, can you tell us how much is the AFP spending for all of this?
I'm sorry for that. I'm not aware of the amount, and I'll just get back to you if you may. I'm not quite involved in the initial spending of how much is the spend of our AFP in putting it at facility.
Okay, Colonel, my last question. They were medically cleared before they left Liberia. Was this really necessary?
Yes, because it is the protocol of United Nations mission in Liberia that 3 days prior to the departure, they will undergo the Ebola screening test.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. What you misunderstood. I should have explained it better. When I say, was this really necessary, the quarantine on Caballo Island, was that really necessary?
Yeah. It was the protocol here in our country that our peacekeepers will be provided a 21-day quarantine in order for them to be observed if there is really an Ebola, because for the safety, not only of our troops and the family, but also for the safety of the whole nation.
All right. Maraming salamat po, Colonel Roberto Angcan, Peacekeeping Operations. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Pia, and good evening sa lahat.
Good evening, sir. Here in the studio is Acting Health Secretary, Undersecretary Janet Gurin. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Pia.
Can you tell us first, was this really necessary? the quarantine?
Yes. It was agreed upon not only by the Department of Health and the AFP, but the other executive offices as well. For the UN peacekeepers, yes, they did have a 21-day quarantine in Liberia, but with the situation, it's also a way of showing the OFWs who will be coming home why a 21-day quarantine is needed. Yes, they tested negative for the Ebola screening test, but it's expected if somebody still does not have the symptoms. I am not saying that one of the peacekeepers will get sick, but even though nil, there's still a possibility.
Okay, you said that this could be an example for returning overseas Filipino workers, but you can't do the same to returning OFWs, right? You can't.
We strongly recommend a 21-day quarantine.
When you say 21-day quarantine, you mean at home? Or
initially the recommendation was for them to have a home quarantine. But after meeting several people from the executive offices, we decided to have a quarantine either in Viluna, if they will agree with Caballo Island, or even in RITM, and the other regional hospitals identified. Why is this necessary? The Philippines has been Ebola-free. We intend to maintain it that way. Others might not agree, but a little sacrifice will actually, I mean, if we have one case, then there would be panic, there would be unnecessary expense, tourism will be affected, business will be affected, people will be affected. It's the emotional strain that everybody, including the family of that patient, will have. So.
When was this decision made, ma'am, that all returning OFWs from countries that already have Ebola cases will be quarantined?
It's not actually on countries that have Ebola cases. It's only in the 3 countries where Ebola is still is spreading. You have Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone.
Okay. Yung mga babalik na OFW, kailangan ma-quarantine.
Kailangan ma-quarantine.
What if they say no?
That's basically the reason why we have been continuously appealing to the families of OFWs. I don't know if it's already out, but we had this infomercial saying, kung may kakilala ka o kamag-anak, kailangan ang 21 araw na quarantine. And we kept on repeating that this is not only for our OFWs or our peacekeepers for this matter. Ito po para sa mga mahal nila sa buhay at para sa buong Pilipinas na rin. We better be on the safe side.
Yeah, agree. But there may not be any direct flights from Liberia, Sierra Leone, or Guinea here to Manila or to the Philippines, right?
Yes.
Dadaan sa ibang countries.
They go to Dubai, there will be transit areas.
And when they come in, how can anyone be forced to say, what countries did you come from before you came from your last destination? Paano
the
mangyari?
DFA is keeping track of that. So they review visas, they know the destinations, they are in touch with airlines, they're also in touch with countries. So the departing, like the point of exits and the point of entries are being watched.
So you're saying that even if there is an OFW coming in from any of those 3 countries, and even if they do not declare that they came from there, they will be found out. Malalaman at malalaman din.
Yes.
Sigurado kayo?
Well, that's a target. It cannot be like, okay, we cannot assure that it's 100 perfect. The system is perfect proof. No? But then, that's why it's not only the government. Kaya nakikiusap kami palagi na preparado tayo in terms of hospitals, quarantine areas, medical personnel. But the overall aspect, kailangan talaga namin ang kooperasyon ng bawat isa.
Are there other countries that quarantine the returning peacekeepers or their nationals?
Well, the others recommend home quarantine. We're still looking. I mean, DFA has been handling that, but in a meeting that we had, including with the AFP, DFA, Department of Tourism, we are at the point kasi na parang ang daming natatakot, no? Ang daming fears. We hope, no, that the info, the education campaign that we have been giving, makarating nga sa lahat-lahat. But with all the efforts that we have, we still cannot allay the fears of many. Yeah. And we also would like to avoid that situation. Kaya nga nananawagan din kami na hindi naman porket galing ka dun, meron ka na. So we have to do away with stigma. The people from Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone should not be ostracized. But at the same time, we have to be very cautious and we have to be careful because Well, you mentioned that there can be transit areas. Kasi a patient will not be, kung hindi naman siya symptomatic at wala siya kita, hindi siya nakakahawa. But the point here is, kung meron, pagkatapos hindi nga naka-quarantine sa amin at nasa ibang lugar, hindi ka agad nagpa-check, then it becomes very difficult.
Well, sometimes, ma'am, you get the sense that, wala nang threat of Ebola or the country having its first case of Ebola because wala na siya sa headlines eh. Minsan ganun ang nangyayari. But however, what is the real situation on the ground? Are we still at that crisis level?
The cases is still increasing in these three countries. So we are still on that point. But on the other hand, we have Senegal and Nigeria that have been declared Ebola-free. It shows that the possibility, a good surveillance will be possible to contain the disease. But there's also the point, ang problema kasi dito, this is something na walang gamot at walang bakuna. Are we going to take the risk? Okay. People are afraid. We keep on educating. Yes, it's fatal. Yes, it's a disease that still has a lot of questions that are being answered. But on the other hand, it's not like the common flu. No, it's not as contagious as the common flu. It's not airborne.
Yeah. Okay.
And these are things, the fears and the minds of the people. Yung ang dami nilang takot, pakonti-konti nga nating sinusugpo ito at sinasagot.
Okay. We're running out of time, ma'am, but I really need to ask you just one last question that has nothing to do with Ebola. But since you mentioned bakuna, so vaccination, so we're talking about these pneumonia vaccines and the whole issue that surrounds this. Secretary Ona and Asik Tayag. My one question that hopefully you can answer in 30 seconds flat is, did the DOH make a mistake in the purchase of those vaccines?
I will not be the person to judge that. Let's await the outcome of the investigation. And what I have reviewed is the process, what should have been done, what was done, and the lapses that happened. That was
So what
I
should have been
reviewed.
done did not happen?
On some cases, yes.
Okay. But is there a problem if WHO says, use this vaccine and we do not?
Let me correct that, because what came out was as WHO recommended this. No, that was not true.
Okay.
The DOH commissioned WHO, and WHO commissioned a group in the London School of Economics, I think, to determine the cost-effectiveness analysis. Ibig sabihin, pagka gumagasto ng pera ang gobyerno, hahanapin mo kung paano at saan makakatipid ka, at the same time you give the maximum benefit to the people.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. At wala namang dahil away ito ng mga pharmaceutical firms. Walang ganon, ano? Or is that another episode? Tell me now.
The way I see things is nagkaroon ng lapses sa proseso. Okay, it will be determined by those who did that. Kung ginawa ba yan because it was unintentional, or was it intentionally done? Where there are outside influences, then that is where your question comes in. But the limitation of the knowledge that I have, we reviewed all documents, and there are lapses in the process.
Okay. Thank you very much, Health Undersecretary Janet Green. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. We'll take a short break. When we come back, another topic, that debate or non-debate between Vice President Jejomar Binay and Senator Trillanes. Welcome back to News.PH. There isn't going to be any debate between Vice President Jejomar Binay and Senator Antonio Trillanes IV in this second segment of the show dahil hindi daw pwede silang ipagsama according to the other party. Our guest now is Attorney J.V. Bautista, who's going to be speaking for Vice President Jejomar Binay. Good evening, Attorney J.V. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes, good evening, Pia.
So
I'm so happy to be here, finally.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy that you're here also because you were supposed to be here last week.
Yes.
But anyway, that's a waste of time. Let's go straight to the issue. Why did Vice President Binay change his... No, before that.
Yes.
The dare, he dared Trillanes.
He was provoked.
Mag-debate tayo.
Yeah, he was provoked.
By who? Who's provoking?
Look at what these three senators are doing in the subcommittee hearing. They're throwing all kinds of lies. They're acting like detractors. The Vice President couldn't probably just resist. Yeah, he was just provoked simply, and he wanted to probably teach somebody a lesson. But finally,
but why Trillanes only?
Because it was Senator Trillanes who filed the resolution. So he said, this guy, first of all, he would have wanted to challenge the basis for the filing of the resolution, considering that there was no COA report to begin with that would address the issue of the overprice, and that it only was based on the simple allegation, the bare allegation of a political opponent.
Okay, so you said he was provoked. Provoked by who? You said the 3 senators, but who was it who gave him that advice, and was it an ill-advised move?
No, I'm not at liberty to tell everything in the show. I'm sorry, Pia, because these are internal matters that we'd like to keep within the team. But the fact is that finally the Vice President has decided that he will not go on with the debate. This was immediately a result of a statement made by Senator Trillanes when he said na dehado naman daw siya, that he was preparing for the debate, you know, he was studying for it, studying to be a debater. After so many years as a senator, he just chanced upon thinking that he would like to learn how to debate. So, sabi naman ni Vice President Binay, bakit naman ganito? Parang pinalalabas niya agad na dehado siya at kawawa siya. So, all of us in the camp of the Vice President, this includes President Erap, Erap Estrada. Erap Estrada was on record when he said that it's not going to do any good to the Vice President to debate
and that
with
is
the
stand
senator.
of your team.
All of us quite unanimously took that stand. And
it's not going to be good because
you don't resolve any issue in that debate. For example, what's the topic of the debate? Overpricing. Who determines overpricing? Isn't it COA? You need technical people to do that. Are you going to debate to the death whether it is overpriced or not? Oh, the ownership of the Rosario property. Who's going to win the debate over the ownership? Vice President Binay already said, that is not mine. That is not mine.
Okay, so you would say that it was a mistake on the part of the Vice President to have gone and
that's the way it looks like now. Yes,
and that he's just trying to make that correction.
It's a
it would
bigger
have been
mistake,
a bigger
Pia.
mistake na ituloy.
Ituloy, oo. Pagka tinuloy yun, it would have been a bigger mistake. Trillanes is just going to capitalize on this debate.
Okay, now, what kind of damage did it do to the Vice President, this backing out, or did it do any damage to him?
The damage, if any, would be very minimal. Siyempre, may mga kantsaw yan. May mga, I mean, Senator Trillanes is going to feast on this, right?
But you've seen the kantsaw on social media, no?
Well, medyo, ano naman kami talaga dihado naman kami sa social media. Kasi maraming paid hacks in social media, mga, alam mo,
not everyone
trolls.
is a paid hack on social media.
I know that, Pia. Not everyone. But I said marami. There are paid trolls, you know. And we know that for a fact. This is part of the demolition plan operation to destroy the image of the Vice President. They have hired so many trolls in social media. Yung mga, makikita mo naman, mga walang litrato, di ba? Mga kung ano-ano pangalan. Tapos kung ano-ano sinasabi, these are trolls. We don't pay any attention to them because they're paid.
What kind of effect will it have on the numbers of the Vice President?
We think that we fully agree with the statement made earlier by political scientist and Professor Mon Casiple, who, by the way, does not have any connection with us at all. Mon Casiple is more really partisan in favor of the President and his group rather than us. But they have a new survey in Metro Manila where they showed, I think the name of the outfit is Novotrend.PH. Parang yung show mo, may .ph. Pinakita nila na Binay was still way ahead of the pack. He still enjoys 29.3% of the lead. And the survey included President Noynoy Aquino, who got only 13%. You know, you can imagine that Rojas and the others, especially Cayetano, would be at the bottom part of the survey. So, Mon Casiple said that he believes that the Vice President's supporters or his numbers have hit rock bottom. This is it. This is the core, solid support of Jojo Binay.
Okay. At hindi na yan mababawasan, hindi na mababawasan.
Sa tingin niya, and ako sa tingin ko rin. You know why, Pia? Because Jojo Binay has a compelling narrative. You know? Itong taong ito, when he was a kid, he was orphan. Nagpakain siya ng baboy dahil wala siyang mga magulang na at that time. Pagkatapos pinag-aral niya yung sarili niya, no? Sinuportahan siyang konti ng kanyang tiyo, pero pinag-aral niya mabuti until he reached law school. And until he went into politics.
Okay.
And now, this little boy is going to be president of this country. This, Pia, is a compelling narrative. And I think every Filipino can identify with this kind of a story that the Vice President is bringing.
Now, the next question is this narrative, this compelling narrative, as you say, going to bring or going to help Jojo Binay hurdle this big crisis?
This is it, Pia. This is not just
No,
going
wala
to
na bang,
make
I mean,
him...
di ba, marami pang lalabas daw, di ba? Ang dami pang...
Who cares? Alam mo na yung mga lalabas naman na yan are coming from the mouths of liars, of incredible people. Tingnan mo let's take one example. Makati Science High School building, di ba? Oh, ito na naman. Bondal, Attorney Bondal, sabi, overpriced yan by so many billions per classroom, ganyan-ganyan. But did he ever present any COA report on that? Hindi ba? Figures lang niya yun eh. Siya lang naman nag-compute. Kinumpute din niya yung cake eh.
Yeah.
Yung cake, sabi niya 1,000, yung pala 300 lang eh.
Okay, my last question, because we need to cut this segment short because Senator Trillanes
Is it over already?
Next. Yes, it's over already.
Next time, give me more time, ha?
Yes, but hindi, dapat nga sabay kayo ni Senator
Gusto ko nga yun eh. I
Trillanes.
was waiting for that.
I know.
And I'm trying to do that in the Senate, but they won't let me.
Oo, naubos na nga tayo naubusan tayo ng oras.
Sorry.
Okay. Itong sinasabi ni Pangulong Aquino, what President Aquino is saying in Beijing, that the Senate should, not do a piecemeal release of their evidence and sige, ilabas nyo na lahat isang buong. What does that mean to the Vice President's camp?
Well, it means a lot because this is the idea of the Chief Executive. This is the sentiment of the President. And I think the President was correct in saying that. Number one, I think the President has already felt the sentiment of a wide segment of our population who are getting sick and tired of this zarzuela, who are getting sick and tired of this demolition job. Number two, the President, I think, wants to concentrate on proper legislative matters. In other words, he's simply telling the senators, come on, senators, you just make good laws. Stop with this demolition thing. Of course, he wouldn't call it that, but that's how it sounds to us.
Okay.
And we're very thankful.
Yeah.
The President, I think, hit the nail on the head when he said, stop it. Tama na yung utay-utay. Dribs and drabs, no? Ngayon ko lang narinig yung phrase na yun, dribs and drabs. Ibig pala sabihin nun, utay-utay. Tama na ho yan. Ang gusto ni Presidente, kayong mga senador, magtrabaho na kayo.
Okay. Thank you very much for being our guest
Thank you very
tonight,
much,
Attorney
Pia.
J.B.
Thank you for
Bautista.
inviting me.
You'll be back here.
I hope you will invite me again.
Yes, you'll be
Okay.
back here. And when we come back, we'll have with us Senator Antonio Trillanes. We'll be right back. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Join us tonight, Senator Antonio Trillanes. Thank you, sir, for being here tonight.
Good evening, Ms. Pia.
So, nakita po ba kayo ni Attorney J.B. Bautista paglabas niya at pagpasok niyo?
Well, fortunately, hindi po.
Kaya, bakit?
I don't know.
You don't know. Maganda yung blocking, no? The blocking was very good. Para
yes.
hindi kayo magkasalubong. But anyway, Senator Trillanes, before we talk about the debate that never was or never will be, what do the President's words from Beijing mean to you? Where he talks about, the Senate should not do a piecemeal release of their evidence, ilabas yun na yan lahat, hindi dapat, not in dribs and drabs.
Actually, I clarified that from some high officials in Malacanang. And they said that the President didn't mean it that way.
Oh, okay. What did he mean?
And he said that he just wanted the cases to proceed in court. And he was apparently misinformed because there are already cases in the Ombudsman, and all the evidence that we have gathered in the subcommittee, they were already turned over with the Ombudsman.
He was misinformed?
I believe so, because they were pertaining to the Makati parking building. They were waiting for our committee report. But we don't need to rush that committee report precisely because there's already a case in the Ombudsman.
But is it possible that what could also have been meant was that since there are cases in the Ombudsman or the courts are the proper forum to hear something like this, na pwede nyo nang tigilan yan? Hindi.
No, because they stressed that ayaw naman niyang ipahinto yung investigation. So kaya nga medyo magulo yung messaging, and I really sought some clarification, and that's what I got.
Okay. So wait, magulo messaging. So you sought some clarification, more clarification, because you just said ayaw naman talaga niya ipahinto. So did you also check that information?
Yes, that's what they told us. That's what they told me, that the president didn't want us to stop the investigation. He just wanted all the evidence to be turned over already to the ombudsman. And it was done as early as September. We've been doing that for every relevant piece of document or testimony that we gather in the subcommittee. We immediately turn it over to the ombudsman so that their fact-finding investigation can proceed.
Okay.
So we're not delaying anything.
Okay.
So apparently the president didn't know this.
Attorney J.V. Bautista, like I said, was here a while ago, and he was explaining that it was an ill-advised thing, on the part of the Vice President. But he was provoked lang daw by you and Senator Cayetano and Senator Pimentel to challenge you to a debate. And now what he's just doing is correcting that mistake. And anyway, sabi nga ni J.V. Bautista, nothing will be gained from a debate.
Okay. Well, ang implication po niyan ay two things. One, the Vice President is impulsive, and two, he is indecisive. In both cases, it can make a dangerous president in the future, right? You don't want these qualities to be in a president, right? So that's what they're admitting. But of course, all these are lame excuses. The bottom line here is they challenged me, I accepted, and he backed out, or he chickened out. And there's no going around it.
No going around it. You're saying that wala na siyang pwedeng sabihin, wala na siyang pwedeng ipaliwanag. Wala
nang spin dito. Kasi they're trying to spin it na parang I said something. Of course not. Ibig sabihin nun, I got into his head. Napakadali naman niya, di ba? They were waiting for the right time to back out. Yesterday, they were supposed to meet with the KBP so that we will sign the guidelines set forth by the KBP. But if they will not sign it, then it's a sign of backing out. So I think the questions of the reporters somewhat provoked the Vice President to reveal their true intentions, which was to back out in the first place.
There's a recent survey that just came out. I wonder if you heard about that, Novo Trends, no? And well, it basically shows that the Vice President's numbers are quite good still, in spite of what's going on. And the numbers, for example, of Mar Rojas not doing very well, somewhere in the lower ranks. What does this mean to you?
Okay, on the assumption that there's integrity in the methodology and the results, I think we should look at where did his numbers come from. I think since the National Capital Region is his bailiwick, it came from the higher 40s. So in that light, he dropped a good 20%, right? And as for the others, I think the questionnaire itself is invalid, because why would you include the president in that survey? The president won't run again. So if you take his name out, where would these numbers go? So I think that
and you're presuming that those numbers would not go to Jojo Binay?
Definitely. Definitely not. So it will go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Then they also deliberately removed the name of President Estrada, I think.
Okay.
Now, if President Estrada would be there, where will he get his votes?
Yeah. Okay. So, but will this series of exposés in the end really matter, no? Where it's going to matter, where it needs to matter? Vice President Binay's numbers may be going down and may go down even further in the coming months, no? But is it going to help Mar Rojas go up also? Will there be enough of the exposés that will make people change their minds, no? Or is there a solid core of Binay supporters, Binay voters out there?
I'm actually not concerned about that anymore. Having seen and heard all the evidence, I'm actually interested in putting the Vice President in jail. And that's the bottom line for me.
Okay, so it doesn't matter to you whether he runs,
yes,
wins, or loses?
or his numbers are high or low, for as long as we put people like him who
Are you
plundered.
confident about putting him in jail?
Yes, I'm confident with what we have would be enough to put him in jail. And I really believe that it's the right thing to do.
You know, apart when you say, I really believe it's the right thing to do, you really are saying that with conviction. You really believe it is the right thing to do.
Yes.
And you're not going to stop.
Yes. I've been on this reform advocacy since 2003. And as you know, I've got detained for 7.5 years for this. So I'm not going to stop.
Yeah. By the way, you know, before we let you go, you mentioned that Magdalo, that the siege of Manila Peninsula back in 2007, kayo mga Magdalo, no? You said that Vice President Binay had promised that he would bring people, warm bodies, to the Makati RTC, and then you would march to Manila Pen. Was there anything else that he promised, or did he give you anything else in support of that?
No. Let me clarify that. It wasn't a promise. We plotted together. So that was his role.
Yeah.
Our role was to start the whole incident, the whole uprising by getting out of the courtroom. Then once we meet up in the lobby, all of us would march together to that Ayala Triangle to form that critical mass.
Yeah.
His role was to...
meet you in Manila Pen?
No.
Meet you in RTC?
In the lobby of the City Hall. So we would march out together. And his role was to form and mobilize the
So when you
City
got to the
Hall
lobby
employees.
at the time, and then you didn't
He
see
wasn't
Jojo
there.
Binay, nagtawagan ba kayo? Or
Yes, we called the then Councilor Junjun Binay and asked them, where is
Asan na kayo?
Yes, and he said that they're still trying to organize, but they'll follow. So, but alam na namin na he won't come. So
did you try calling them again?
yes, we did all throughout that
All
day.
throughout. And
yes.
so what were they saying? Ano yung explanation?
Ito na, malapit na.
Malapit na.
So, ganun yun. I just cited that. I just raised that issue again in relation to his backing out or turning back on his word. So it's not the first time for me.
Yeah.
Because that was my first sad experience with his word of honor or lack of it.
But I'm sure you encountered him after that, no? Did you ever talk about it?
Yes, he apologized after. He
Right
said he
after?
was right after he when we were hauled to Camp Crame.
Yeah, okay.
He went there with some lawyers and he apologized for not showing up. He
And
said he
what?
was he got the wrong information.
What wrong information?
I don't know what he was talking about. Similar to the lame excuses that the spokesmen are dishing out in relation to this debate. So it's the same thing.
Okay, 2016, what are your plans?
I have already expressed to my party, the Nacionalista Party, my intention to run for higher office. I stated that, I think, early during the first half of this year. And but I don't want that to be connected to this.
To this.
Because it doesn't mean that I am a potential candidate. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop being a senator. I'm going to stop investigating people. And it doesn't also mean that he is a candidate, that he can't be investigated anymore.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator Antonio Trillanes. Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, ma'am.
News.PH will be right back. When we come back, we'll talk about China's maritime and economic Silk Road. We'll be right back. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Well, what else did we expect? You quarrel with China, this is what you get. Left out in the cold, left out of China's maritime and economic Silk Road. And in the background, of course, we just had that APEC leaders meeting. With us right now, Chito Santaromana, China analyst, former Beijing bureau chief for ABC, and a repeat guest always, every time we talk about China, which is so often here on News.PH. Thank you very much, sir, for being here again.
With what's happening in APEC, the good side is that at least for the first time, Xi Jinping and Aquino met. Hopefully, we will not be left out in the long run. I don't think it's a permanent situation.
Yes.
It depends on how we handle it now.
Yeah, but how we handle it, you're not suggesting that we change tactics and say, okay, let's withdraw that arbitration case.
No, I don't think the government will do that. President Aquino has invested too much time and effort in that. We'll push it. He'll push it through. We only have a year and a couple of months before they come out with a decision. While it's still there, though, what's happened now is that before the Chinese froze all high-level contacts. So now they have at least lifted it in this diplomatic opportunity at APEC. Next year, we host APEC, so the dialogue can continue. We can at least combine the arbitration case with high-level bilateral talks on the side. And this would prepare the groundwork for what happens after arbitration is over. Okay. So there is a chance that we could still get into this, the Maritime Silk Road, in terms of some of the projects. I think what's happening now is that, of course, the Chinese have taken punitive measures. Aid and loans have been suspended, and it would take time for them to do that. While the meeting was significant in terms of resuming some form of direct contact, it doesn't mean the problems are over. But it is a small opening, a significant opening.
A good start.
A good start. You know, a journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first one.
Well, President Aquino was explaining that he was explaining to media, in his talk with President Xi, that President Xi was talking about, we should go back to our old days. What does that really mean?
It's a very diplomatic formulation. If I were to unpack that and to decode it, it means let's go back to bilateral.
Okay.
But that's impossible right now. However, even though you have an arbitration case, you could open up bilateral contacts. In other words, the Chinese foreign minister has avoided coming to the Philippines. He's visited all the ASEAN capitals except the Philippines since the arbitration case was filed. Now you could actually re-invite him and he could come.
And you think he would accept the invitation the next time around?
There is a stronger chance now because he has to come to prepare for President Xi's coming next year. So there is this diplomatic opportunity in front of us and it depends on how we deal with it. So the situation is actually flexible now. It used to be locked in.
Yes.
Now we could still pursue the arbitration, but at least pursue the diplomatic opening to resume the dialogue.
Yeah.
And the issue of what really is our economic interests or what is our national interest. There is the short-term interest we want to recover Scarborough Shoal.
So that's a short-term interest.
Well, it's also long-term, but the long-term interest is you have a rising power.
Right.
China.
Right.
We cannot move the Philippines over to North America. We're here. We're stuck in Asia. So we have to learn to live with our neighbor. We don't have to go to bed with China, but we should at least be normal, friendly, have normal, friendly relations.
And try not to quarrel with it very much. And, well, we don't have a choice.
We have good relations with the U.S. and Japan. We don't have to give that up, but we should have good relations with all the major powers in the region and know how to deal with them so that we can maintain an independent foreign policy. Because right now there's an imbalance. We're too much on the U.S. and Japan side, which is fine because we got scared of China's assertive tactics, and therefore we ran to this side. But now the Chinese are signaling that instead of hard power, they will also re-emphasize soft power, economic.
They're using the carrot now.
The carrot,
and
exactly.
how can our neighbors say no, right?
Exactly, and most of our neighbors are joining in. I mean, Xi Jinping praised Malaysia for quiet diplomacy. And Vietnam has gone back to bilateral with China. We're left on our own, which actually is giving our neighbors a free ride. If we get legal clarity as a result of the arbitration, it helps all of them. But we bear the cross, so to speak, until we go through this period of trial, this arbitration case. If we lose, hopefully we don't, then you really have to talk. And if we win, then we have to decide, what do we do next?
Okay, my final question, sir, I'm so sorry, we
I know.
ran out of time.
I understand.
But I'm sure there'll be another opportunity to have you here again, sir, because we need to talk about China, keep talking about it. You said this is a good opening, a small opening, but it's a good start now. But it also depends on how we handle things, right? So we can't afford to bungle it.
Well, it depends on both sides, but the ball right now is on our side. What do we do next? Can we resume talks at the foreign minister level? Well, there's going to be the ASEAN summit in Myanmar, and there could be fireworks there because the South China Sea issue will be there again. So,
but we won't have many kakampi there now.
But we basically have to learn to, on the one hand, defend their interests, on the other hand, resume normal, business as usual. Compartmentalize the dispute from the business, economic, and other relations so that we can move on.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Chito Santa Romano, for joining us. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
sir. We'll have you back on the show, like I said. And that is our show for tonight. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Thank you and good night. Now we're seeing we're showing you live shots right now. What we're seeing right now are live shots just outside the gate of Sangley Point, Sangley Naval Base in Cavite. The buses are passing. The peacekeepers on the bus waving to the crowds and to the cameras.
That's correct. We've seen the excitement on the faces of the peacekeepers earlier, and they're waving, they're smiling, and it looks like they're all excited to, at least to see their families after 21 days. And we also saw some family members waiting for them at the Villamor Air Base. Okay, I guess we are near the gate of Sangley Point right now, Pia. So, there. So, we're seeing that the convoy is now entering the Sangley Point area. There's so many people waiting here outside the naval base, and safety protocols transporting the peacekeepers as often. Maybe says that the crew will keep distance from the peacekeepers during the around 3 to 4 hour travel from Sangley Point to Caballo Island. That's why the crew will no longer wear hazmats or any protective gear during the trip. The trip is dependent, of course, on the sea condition and the commanding officer of the ship. And the Philippine Navy says
peacekeepers aboard bus on the way to Sangley
will immediately be disinfected after she finishes her mission of transporting the 133 peacekeepers to Caballo Island. Pia?
Okay, I'm sorry, George, the buses have just arrived in Sangley Point. That's what we're seeing right now?
Okay, Pia, as far as I'm concerned, we are already in Cavite City, but we're at the end of
You're
the convoy.
at the tail end of the convoy.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're at the tail of the convoy, but we cannot see if we are already near the Sangley Point area. But our reporter,
3 weeks. Let's speak first to George Cahiles, who is with the convoy of the buses that are on their way, bringing the peacekeepers to Sangley Point. George?
Pia, the convoy is now here in Cavite City, and in a few minutes we will reach Sangley Point. And we've been following this convoy for more than an hour now from Villamor Air Base. And of course, it's a long convoy, and of course, the main vehicles would be the 3 buses carrying the 133 peacekeepers to Sangley Point. Each bus has a driver and at most crew members wearing hazmat. And earlier, we noticed that the peacekeepers were even waving to our camera. They were smiling and they looked excited upon arriving here in the country after their 10-month stay in Liberia. Yeah, upon arrival in Sangley Point, the peacekeepers will immediately be transferred to the Navy's BRP Dagupan City. And Philippine Navy spokesman Colonel Edgar Arevalo says the ship's crew were well trained and oriented on the
Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. A 133 peacekeepers are home from Liberia, but not quite. Upon arrival at Villamor Air Base in Pasay City, the peacekeepers were whisked away by bus to Sangley Point in Cavite, where they will board a Navy boat that will take them to Naval Station Caballo. There they will be quarantined for...
Rex is waiting there at the gate of Sangley Point. So, he's there if in case that this convoy already enters the Sangley Point area. Yes?
Okay, I suppose you're not going to be allowed beyond or inside the gates of Sangley Point. So I suppose right now you're going to be stopping. You're going to be stopped in a little while.
That's correct, Pia, because the armed forces is very strict in terms of allowing media men in entering their camp. So we have yet to get an information if we will be stopped at the gate of Sangley Point, but if they will permit us, of course, to come near the area, of course, we will follow. And, okay, so currently we are, we're a few meters away from Sangley Point right now. And based on our map...
George, this is nice.